Hey bloomers, and happy Lovers Month, because it's February, which means y'all are celebrating this thing called a Valentine's Day. But I love God, I love my family, I love my relationships, I love my partner, I love all of that. And that's all you're getting from me. And most importantly, I love you all. So stay tuned for this video, because we are talking about navigating through the pruning season. Now, I realize that I have done several posts talking about how I went through my pruning, and the winter season is about pruning, but I never really told y'all about the pruning season. And y'all ain't even bother to say, Azalea, you keep talking about pruning, but you ain't saying what pruning is and how do I know how that I'm going through pruning. You keep saying you guys need to go through pruning and cutting away dead branches and da-da-da-da, but you ain't telling us what pruning is. And I do give you my humblest apologies, because I did not tell y'all about the pruning season. But if y'all have been following me, you guys do know that the winter season, I have realized, is a time to prune. And as we commonly understand, it involves cutting off or cutting back for better growth. And you can apply this concept to life and when you're on your path to becoming your best self. But we all know that pruning is not a walk in the park. Pruning is a natural part of our life journey, but sometimes it happens very much randomly and unexpectedly, and you may not even realize it until it's almost over. Trust me, I've been there. Life has a funny way of keeping us on our toes, on our P's and Q's, T's crossed, I's dotted. And sometimes when we go through pruning, it's like a backstage prep before the blessing, before that new season, before that open door. Y'all know when, artists are preparing to go on stage, you would find that they're doing like voice warm-ups, or they're stretching, or they're dancing, or they're doing something to like shake off their nerves and stuff. Well, that's how you should look at pruning. When you go through pruning, you notice that things are starting to change, it's like a shift, but it's not a recognizable shift. Well, once you've gone through it before, I think you recognize it. I know for me, when I was going through my pruning, like I said, I didn't necessarily realize that I was going through it. I just always was questioning God, and I was just like, why am I losing friends? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? I could feel some growth happening. I could definitely feel the transformation, but what's happening? And not until like the last quarter of last year, I realized, oh my God, 2023 was me pruning, getting things like cut away, but it made me fruitful. It made me grow. It brought out a better side of me, a newer side of me, a side of me that I didn't realize was even there. Like, I didn't realize how strong, I always say this because it really takes a lot for me to see how strong I am. Something I would always tell some people is that I'm afraid of myself, because I know that I'm capable of a lot. I know I can handle some serious things. But when I went through my pruning, I think I saw me for me. I saw who God created me to be. And I was like, wow, like this is what it is. And one thing I do want to say, try not to complain and try not to question when you are going through pruning. Like when you realize you are going through it, don't question it. Don't fire off all the questions. Don't be too human when you're doing it, because take a breather, sit back and take a breather and consider the dreams that you had, the visions that you had, and the goals that you have. Because when you start thinking back on those prayers that you had and those goals that you want to accomplish, and those dreams and those big visions that you have, yeah, this your prayer getting answered right now. But first, God got to do some chopping. He got to do a few little things before he gives you what you've been asking for. And he has to make sure that you are right. Your mind is in the right place. Your heart is in the right place. Your soul, your spirit, your attitude, everything about you is in the right place before he does what he needs to do. So you got to warm up. You got to do your backstage prep. You're leveling up in life. And how do you know you're leveling up in life? In the most humblest and the most spiritual way, in the most seasonal growth way that you can. I'm going to list off how you know that you're pruning. And here are the signs to know that you are pruning. You have a shift in your priorities. Your mindset leans more towards things that are more godly than worldly. You start facing challenges. You feel a bit under the fire. You feel that persecution, that judgment, or that rejection. You have a new dependence on God. No more solo missions. It's about allowing Him to lead the way. God time penciled in. Your calendar seems to have more God time penciled in, which means you making time for God. You say, okay, 8 o'clock every morning, me and God time for an hour. You go into prayer for an hour. You find out you go into church more, or you just find yourself doing more meditation. You find yourself doing intentional isolation, a time to recharge and focus on yourself and what it is that you want to do. And you experience a lot of testing in faith, because your faith is now being stretched. So if you're ticking these boxes off to any of these signs, congratulations, you're in the midst of pruning, and yay. Don't complain, because you're going to get through it, and we will all get through this together, because I am by your side. And most importantly, God is holding your hand. But let's get real for a minute. When you are in a season of pruning, that should be a time of privacy, a time for yourself. It should be sacred. There's no need to announce to the world, oh, I'm taking a 3-month break from everything. I'm not posting, I'm not sharing, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. No, you don't have to go through all of that. If you're going to go through your seasons of pruning, of isolation, just do it. Not everyone needs to know. There are times when you just gracefully step aside and embrace the silence and keep your pruning phase a bit more private. It's about acknowledging situations for what they are, healing, extending forgiveness, or making bold decisions to just step aside. And it just simply means that you're just moving out the way. You're there, but you're not there. You're more in tune with yourself, and you're more focused on yourself and getting yourself more aligned than just always being to the forefront and being amongst people and being around the noise and being around, because like I always say, the world is loud. The world is loud and the distractions are ridiculous. And in order to really embrace your pruning and in order to understand what it is you need to do, sometimes you need to just be by yourself, move in silence, and the only voice you need to be hearing and communicating with is God, right? And the importance of pruning is all about saving yourself, preserving your inner peace, and safeguarding your sanity. Remember, you got this. It's a journey towards your best self. And in order to be your best self, sometimes you have to remove yourself from the crowd. You have to save yourself before you destroy yourself, before you lose your sanity, because a part of you is like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm trying to figure this out with my life. You're doing all these self-checks and self-evaluations, but it's like, you can't hear clear. You can't even hear yourself clear, because you always have this person in your space. You always doing this, you always doing that. Sometimes you just humbly need to be alone and just enjoy your own company. Learn to be alone. Learn to be by yourself. A lot of y'all don't like to be alone and be by yourself. And yes, I know there are many of us who don't want to be alone and who don't like to be lonely. Trust me, I get it. Because when I went through my pruning, I was lonely, but I wasn't alone. And I found comfort in that. There were days where I cried and I got upset too, but I had to catch myself and say, you know what? I feel lonely because I feel by myself. I feel alone. I feel like no one's going to get it. And, everything had to be taken away from me, literally, but I wasn't alone. And that's the difference between being lonely and being alone. You can feel lonely and, but you're not alone because God is with you. So just keep your head and keep focused on Him. Tunnel vision. So, not to ramble much longer, but I do want to say, as we embrace the winter season and the season of intentional pruning, let's welcome the transformative beauty it brings. And I'm going to say it again because I've been saying it in a lot of my posts recently. Don't murmur. Don't complain. Don't fuss. Take it for what it is and move on. It's okay because it's just prepping you. And sometimes you, like I said, you need to just be alone for a minute just to align yourself and to reevaluate and to self-evaluate and to reflect and to make sure that you're okay, you're healed, your cup is filled, it's not contaminated. Making sure you're doing what God has called you to do and not what you think you're supposed to be doing. Because I can't remember what it is, but in Proverbs somewhere, for man makes his own plans, but it's God's plans that prevails. So make sure you're aligned with God. And, don't question it too much. You're going to feel alone. If it's intentional, then you shouldn't feel as alone because you set in the time to do it. But if it's happening to you and you don't understand it, don't feel alone because God is with you. You may feel lonely, but you're not alone. And no, please understand that there is a difference, a thin line, but there's a difference between being lonely and being alone. But I want you to embrace this winter season, embrace this pruning, embrace this first quarter of 2024. Get yourself in order. Or like my spiritual mother say, it's time to get God's house in order. She says, it's time to get the house in order. I don't have time to play dollhouse and puppy doll. Time to get the house of God in order. Get yourself in order. Get your mind in order. Get your emotions in order. But I won't ramble any much longer. I love you all. I will see you all in my next video. I appreciate you. Continue to like, share, subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'll see you all next time. Bye. Mwah.